Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Howard Rosenberg, the entertainment critic, on what happened at the Supreme Court hearings. It was theater after all. Plus on the Power Pundit panel, Lucas Foletta, Fred Lokken, and Mylan Hawkins is all coming up next on the all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Here's Nevada constitutional law scholar Ian Bartram.
I studied question 3 carefully. 3 would lock electricity deregulation into our state constitution. This is a terrible idea. Locking deregulation in our constitution would put a huge legal roadblock in the way of fixing problems deregulation creates, like the soaring electric rates and rolling blackouts deregulation caused in other states. I urge no on 3 to stop this risky and costly constitutional amendment.
40 years ago, Hotel California and the theme from Rocky were #1 on the pop charts, and D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal started on the road to becoming Nevada's leading roofing company.
I couldn't be more proud of what we've achieved.
And over these 40 years, we've become an employee-owned company. So when you're talking to any employee, you're talking to an owner.
And here's to the next 40 years.
Happy 40th birthday, D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal.
Nearly 200,000 Nevadans work in retail businesses, supporting families and the community. Nevada's retail businesses generated over $2 billion in sales tax revenue in 1 year, including nearly $700 million to help our schools. Shop around and see all that Nevada's retailers offer our state.
We're the Retail Association of Nevada, representing thousands of Nevada businesses.
Businesses that work for Nevada.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Dean Heller made a promise.
I'm telling you right now, I cannot support a piece of legislation that takes insurance away from hundreds of thousands of Nevadans.
But then Donald Trump threatened Dean Heller.
Look, he wants to remain a senator, doesn't he?
And then Dean Heller broke his promise.
Heller says he has changed his stance on the repeal.
He decided not to cross Trump.
Senator Dean Heller will vote to proceed. That is a complete 180.
Dean Heller broke his promise and caved to Donald Trump. SMP is responsible for the content of this act.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Howard Rosenberg. He's a former UNR professor of art and art education. Pleasure to have you back on the program, sir.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, as you're a student of theater, what you thought of the hearings over the last couple of weeks for the Supreme Court, because I don't think that there's been better theater, whether you liked it or not, in a long, long time.
When theater gets to the point where it's uncomfortable to watch, and you don't even want to watch the news, that's not theater anymore.
What is it?
That's real life, and that's really uncomfortable. What went on in those hearings, the way people behaved, what they said, it's as close to real life as you're going to get. And I wonder if this is where we're going, is this where we want to go?
All right, so that brings up interesting philosophical debate
of course.
Here, which is, first of all, most politics is theater of one kind or another. There is a difference between running for election and governing. They are two completely different things. Election campaigns have been essentially where, I'm going to be kind here to say, that I don't watch campaign commercials, even though plenty of people run them on this program, because I don't want to be tainted by any of the nonsense that they're saying, because I don't believe either side.
That's where we are at this particular point. That's why a free press is so important in the world, and why journalists, real, honest-to-goodness journalists, not columnists with opinions. I'm not interested in your column and your opinion. I'm interested in you reporting to me what you know to be true. And then we go from there. Then I can make up my own mind.
Did you know Adolph Fox when you were a child?
No.
He was the guy that brought the New York Times in the late 1800s. I didn't know if you had been close, because I know that your ages are right around
we're close. Thank you, Sam.
But you know, he made a point of it didn't matter how much money you had, he was going to have his reporters tell the story, and if General Motors didn't like the story that he wrote or that they wrote in the paper, he didn't care because he didn't need them as advertisers.
Right.
What has happened, especially since the Trump administration has been in place, is that all media, television, radio, newspapers, have utilized the Trump administration as a way to sell more newspapers, radio, and television. And this is an ongoing battle that benefits most because Donald Trump spent almost nothing in terms of advertising to become president and doesn't need his press office. He is his own press office.
But what you need to look at is not Donald Trump, but Donald Trump's supporters. Who are they? Where do they come from? Why do they support him? What is it that's making this happen? That's the thing that I think we need to know more than anything else. Right, wrong, or indifferent, he's the President of the United States. Fine. He got there because there were enough people who supported him. I don't know about numbers or anything like that, Sam, but I do know that he has a support
literally
base.
half the electorate.
Fine. Why? What is it that we were not doing that we should have been doing? And this didn't start with Donald Trump. This goes back quite some time. This goes back all the way, I think, to Kennedy.
Well, I don't disagree. It's been going on a long time. I think that the general public was tired of being lied to over the years by various parties, and they found somebody who they felt could represent them. And it's a big mixture of people. It's people from red states, it's people from blue states, it's business people, it's all kinds of people who felt that they weren't getting a fair deal. And here was somebody who stood up and was prepared to knock down all the niceties of political discussion and comportment, whether in the United States or around the world, and said, I'm going to be with you. He's a former Democrat, now a conservative. He's been all over the map. I don't think anybody who has a philosophical bent trusts him to be in their particular bent forever, but he represents a fight against the system.
That's perfectly possible, Sam. All I'm saying is that what's happened with news today, particularly television news, it's become entertainment. It isn't really news.
But it's been entertainment for a long time.
Granted.
I mean, if you go back to, hang on, if you go back to David Hartman in the 70s on Good Morning America, he was an actor. And at that point in time, they took Good Morning America out of the news department and it was run by the entertainment division.
Where are the Walter Cronkites of the world when we need them now? I trusted Walter Cronkite. I didn't know him. I never met him. But just watching him and listening to him every night, I felt comfortable. If Walter said it, I trusted it to be true. I don't feel that way about most anybody on the news today. Well, look at our newspaper.
You're talking about the Reno Gazette?
Yes. There's no news in it. I mean, it's all stuff that comes from the AP Wire and stuff like that. Where's the local news that we really need to understand what's going on in Reno?
There is some, but it's minimal because of costs. Gannett nationwide has cut back.
I'm not interested in any of those excuses. That's your job. That's what I expect. There's one reporter in this town that I trust, and I read everything that he writes. There are times when I'm not quite sure I understand it the way I should, but I can call and ask. But other than that, forget it.
Okay, and you're referring, I'm presuming, to Dennis Myers of the Reno News
Reno
and Review.
News and Review, yes.
Okay, who writes for, you know, and I don't think there's any disagreement, a liberal publication and has a liberal point of view.
But Sam,
he has great historical context.
Look at the last issue that had the big question mark on it, no on 3, and read Dennis's whole explanation of what that's all about. You really understand it. And that, to me, is the most important thing, because if I'm going to vote, I want to vote on the side that does the most good for people.
I don't disagree that Dennis Myers is a great journalist and a historian, and he has been on this program many times over the last few years, and I'm always happy to have him. but he does have a perspective, and that newspaper does have a perspective. My point earlier was that the news media, especially print media, was failing badly for a long, long time.
True.
And Donald Trump has revived the news industry in general. He's revived the New York Times, the Washington Post, you name the papers, because they can't stop writing about him, and their readers want to read about him. The subscriptions online are through the roof.
Sam,
they are back to making money.
That may well be, but that's not what news is all about. What news is all about is telling me what I need to know so I can make an informed decision. Now, granted, I'm not, Johnny-come-lately to this kind of thing. I know people lie right, left, and upside down. By the same token, what I want to be able to do is go to a newspaper or television or listen to my radio and get the kind of description of what's really happening in terms that I can understand and that give me some basis to believe what you're telling me.
I would say to you that at this point in time, you have to, as always, read a variety of places, watch a variety of places. I saw a news broadcast. I didn't have the volume up, I have to admit this, but it was apparently a story about somebody who got hit by an SUV, okay, and killed. The graphic was of somebody being flattened by an SUV. I mean, what in the world is that? I'm not going to name the station, that's for them to deal with. But I mean, that's where we have fallen in terms of local television news, that these are the kind of things we're covering.
There's also the point of what is it that we're teaching our children? What are they learning? How are they being able to take in the news and being able to make some decisions based?
Right, okay, for those on the radio and listening to the audio podcast, I'm holding up my phone because that's how they're getting their news.
I know, and that's the part that scares the living daylights out of me.
Why?
Because
they have access to the whole world through their phone.
I know, they do, but it's a tangential interaction.
What does that mean?
They're not actually involved in it. They're sitting back and they're watching it, and it's giving them little bitty sound bites, which is what television and radio do too, granted. But television and radio do it on a more prolonged kind of a base, where you're not traveling and you don't have other things impinging on you when you're trying to listen to what the news is about. Sam, are we still teaching civics in the public schools? Do we teach government? How our government was formed? That's history, fine. But now, what is it that our government does? Where do we get what we get from the government? Why does it come the way it comes? Are we teaching our children that? It scares me that we're not.
Okay, but you have avoided the main point of this discussion, which was that this is a money-making operation, that where television news, for example, used to be all about public service because you were forced to do the news to have a television license. That was thrown out the window decades ago. Now, CNN's Jeff Zucker has a battle with Donald Trump. They used to be friends, now they're not. And CNN goes after Trump, and Trump goes after CNN, and both have great ratings. And it's the same with MSNBC is for the liberals, Fox is for the conservatives. But it's all about money. They're all making money.
That may well be, Sam, but that doesn't solve the basic problem. How are we getting the information we need to make informed decisions,
and you know
to make our government work the way we want it to work?
And the answer to that question is we have to work to find it because it isn't obvious. And let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
We already know NV Energy is lying, but did you know NV Energy has been cheating too? NV Energy's own documents show it overcharged Nevadans by $346 million, even overcharging our schools, and then handed millions in bonuses to top executives, a scheme even the Public Utilities Commission called excessive. Now, NV Energy has launched a $30 million no-on-3 scare campaign, all so they can continue to raise your rates. Lying, cheating, scheming. Imagine what else they have in store.
How do you shed some light on a better economy? Start with growth inspired by Valley Electric Association. We're a member-owned power company that puts Nevada first, and we're doing big things, like providing prosperity by securing renewable energy projects. For Nevada, that means more jobs and more opportunities, all for a strong statewide economy. In other words, together, we're doing powerful things. Visit us at vea.coop to learn more.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
Dear Nevada,
there's a kidnapping underway.
We're taking your Senate seat in California.
Liberals in California have hijacked our Senate race. Put $1.9 million into Jackie Rosen's campaign.
Vote for Jackie Rosen or else.
California wants Jackie Rosen because Jackie Rosen votes like Pelosi 90% of the time.
Jackie Rosen.
Trillions in taxes, job-killing regulations. Don't let California kidnap your Senate seat. Vote against
Jackie Rosen.
NRSC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Howard Rosenberg. He's a former UNR professor of art and art education, and we're talking politics and how do you find the news. Tell me about what happened in last night's episode of Madam Secretary on CBS.
No, I'm not going to tell you. I want you to watch it. Now I'm told it's streamed, so you know how to do all this kind of stuff. But what they're doing is, she's getting ready to run for President of the United States. Last night they had Madeleine Albright, Colin Powell, and Hillary Clinton on. Now, there's a trifecta to end all trifectas, and it's all one-way slants. I'm wondering how much pushback there's going to be from last night's thing. But my telling you about it and you seeing it are two entirely different things.
Okay, but this is not new. I mean, entertainers from Mort Sahl to Johnny Carson have been pushing political lines, and it's become even more aggressive with the current crop of late-night hosts.
But what this thing did last night was how much of her family gets fed into the maw of this machine, and how much damage can be done by someone saying something that they felt and believed very strongly. Not her saying it, but a member of her family.
Okay, but isn't this the ultimate product placement?
I guess you could call it that.
Of course it is, because if you did it with a box of soap, you'd be promoting that soap or that soft drink.
True.
If you're doing it with politics as part of content, this is the Alpo commercial in the middle of the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon.
But that means it has a point of view that it is trying to get across. Should entertainment be doing that?
Has it ever not? And
exactly.
That's where we have to leave it. We have come full circle. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. We'll be right back.
You tried to move on. You tried to put your life back together. Until one day, you see him at the store when you're leaving work. Somewhere you may never expect. The criminal who tore your life apart is walking free, but you may never know until you come face to face with him. Don't let this happen to more victims. Vote yes on question 1.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. And a lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Women and children, when fleeing an abusive relationship, shouldn't have to choose leaving their pet behind or leaving. And Noah's Animal House removes that barrier. And we are excited to have a facility in Las Vegas to serve Southern Nevada and Northern Nevada in Reno, so that women and children can be right next door to their pets while they're on their road to recovery and safety. Grab your toga and head inside Edge Nightclub for Noah's Animal House 2. Animal House has gone country this year with a live performance by country star Tyler Rich.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, we have a great Power Pundit panel. As always, Lucas Foletta is here, attorney with McDonald Carano. Fred Lokken is political science professor at Truckee Meadows Community College, and Mylan Hawkins is vice president of Interface Computer Associates. Pleasure to have you all here. I'm going to start with you, Mylan, because we're taping this after the weekend of the Kavanaugh hearings and the votes, and now he is Justice Kavanaugh. What are your thoughts at the end of this? Because I got to tell you that mine are that this was the biggest fundraising effort on both sides that I've ever seen. I mean, my phone has been blowing up all weekend. Send money, send money, send money.
Yes, and so has mine. I think that this is an example of an American tragedy, truthfully. In my personal opinion, the allegations of sexual misconduct and underage drinking aside, I do not believe that this man is qualified for the Supreme Court. Now, that's my personal opinion, based on the fact that I think that he has lied to Congress and maybe very well has lied to the FBI about many of the things that did come out in the hearing. But the spectacle on both sides at that hearing was an American tragedy, and that's my thoughts.
Right?
Well, I would certainly agree. All of the opinion polling indicating highest level of dissatisfaction with this candidate that we've seen, even worse than Clarence Thomas or the Bork issue. And in spite of that, there are any number of other qualified people that would have been an easy push for the Republicans. So I'm kind of upset with both parties. The Democrats for even putting up the fight. The system was clearly going to allow this to happen, and they fell on a sword they didn't have to. For the Republicans, it was what seems to be a new level of amorality associated with this process, and it now creates an imbalance on the court, a historic shift that we haven't seen really in our lifetime. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this does play out. But the tragedy is going to continue. This is, unfortunately, just one skirmish, and what we will see to be more.
One of the things, Lucas, I thought was interesting was the FBI coming under attack for not investigating this as thoroughly as they should have. And my thought is that with the attacks of the president on the FBI, the CIA, and every other agency that deals in these kind of things, that there would be no favors from the FBI in favor of anything for President Trump in these hearings. What was your thought on that?
Well, I mean, I think that it's somewhat ironic, obviously, that there were these calls for the FBI to do this investigation, and the White House said, oh, yes, that's fine, we should do that. And to your point, on the heels of the president bashing the FBI for the last, 12 months. 18 months. 18 months, yeah, the entire time he's been in office. I think it just reflects the fact that all these institutions are under attack. Each one politicizes the other when it's convenient for them. And I think it shows that the process, this process really seemed to fail. And I don't know if whether Kavanaugh should be on the court or not is a legitimate question. But clearly, the Senate didn't look very good. I don't think the president looked very good. I don't think any of the participating agencies looked very good. And at some point, you can talk about reforming the rules, but really at some point, norms have to kind of come into play. And we have to have a more responsible approach to this. I mean, to have this bitter partisan fight in the middle of this hearing and have a judge then be recalled to the testifying stand and himself make a partisan pitch about why he should be on the court and how this process is broken. I mean, things just certainly spun out of control.
That was the large unprecedented. I think that's where I would hope both Republican and Democrat would be shocked at how a person sitting in testimony treated members of the United States Senate.
Yeah.
And frankly, we know this was a contrived event. He spent a week in the White House. We were making phone calls. But remember, the president said he thought he should have been angry, and now we got the theatrical presentation of a lifetime. We just have to be ashamed of what's happened. This is terrible.
And what is the responsibility of the media in all this? Because it seems to a point, because there was no other news in the last week, with the exception of what was going on in Indonesia, the media has a major responsibility here.
Well, yes, Sam. Unfortunately, a lot of our media has dwindled down to what I call Esquire-esque, demeanor, or Inquirer-esque demeanor. Everything has to be so sensationalized. And I think of Dr. Ford and the play that the press made with her. And I look at this and I say, there has to be some better responsibility overall in the way people are reporting the events. And there was a lot more going on in the world than just the Supreme Court hearing. There was other things actually happening in Congress while we weren't looking. Another tax cut came into play. Did you hear about it?
I did. But
you did, but of course.
Fred and I are the ones.
Right. So there were other issues, other important issues that could have been talked about, but that's all we heard was.
We're going to take a break here. We'll come back on the next program and we'll continue with you guys after that, okay? We'll be right back.
Okay.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
St. Ives Florist, for every holiday and every special occasion. For romance. Custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in northern Nevada. And we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
On our next broadcast, legendary political reporter in the state of Nevada, Sean Whaley. We'll see you then.